The Great Hall of Orvex Prime was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known galaxy. Its walls stretched so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Representatives from 412 different species sat in their designated sections, each one watching the central platform where the fate of an entire world would be decided. Ambassador Park Yuna stood alone on that platform. She was a small woman by human standards, with gray streaks in her black hair and calm eyes that had seen too many battles. Behind her, on a massive screen, the blue and green sphere of Earth rotated slowly. Her home. The home of 8 billion people who were waiting to hear if they still belonged among the stars. Hi. Chancellor Torvin of the Milvari Dominion rose from his elevated seat. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 eyes that never seemed to blink. His species had traveled between stars when humans were still learning to make fire. He looked down at Yuna with something close to pity. "The charges against Earth are clear," Torvin said. His voice echoed through the hall. In just 200 years since first contact, humanity has expanded to 47 worlds. They have built a military fleet despite having no enemies. They have spread their culture to younger species, filling their heads with dangerous ideas about progress and change. Yuna listened without expression. She had heard these complaints before. The older species feared humanity not because humans were cruel or evil. They feared humans because humans were fast. Too fast. In 2 centuries, humanity had done what most species took 10,000 years to achieve. "We have shared our medical technology freely," Yuna said, when it was her turn to speak. "Diseases that killed millions on a dozen worlds are now cured because of human science. When the Void Swarm attacked the Fellini homeworld, it was human soldiers who stayed to fight while others ran. We have given more than we have taken." A murmur went through the hall. Some species nodded. They remembered. But Torvin raised his hand for silence. "Humanity is not evil," Torvin admitted. "But humanity is dangerous. Not for what you have done, but for what you will do. In another 1,000 years, you will be stronger than all of us combined. The Galactic Union has maintained peace for 100,000 years by keeping balance. Humanity destroys that balance simply by existing." The vote was called. Yuna stood perfectly still as the numbers appeared on the screen. 298 in favor of Exile. 87 against. 27 abstentions. The majority had spoken. Earth was to be cut off from the galaxy forever. "The decision is final," Torvin announced. "Humanity will withdraw all citizens from galactic space within 60 standard days. All trade routes to Sol will be closed. Any human ship found outside the Sol system after this period will be destroyed. Earth will remain in isolation until the Galactic Union decides otherwise." Yuna looked up at the High Chancellor. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she bowed her head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement but not acceptance. "I will inform my government," she said simply. Then she turned and walked out of the Great Hall. She did not look back. On Earth, it was night over the Pacific Ocean, in a bunker deep beneath the waves. Admiral Kong Do-yan watched the broadcast from Orvex Prime. He was an old soldier, with scars on his face and hands that told stories of battles won and friends lost. Beside him stood General Ru Taiwu, a younger man with sharp eyes and a mind built for war. "They actually did it," Taiwu said quietly. "They voted to cage us." Do-yan said nothing for a long moment. He watched Yuna walk out of the assembly, her back straight, her dignity intact. Then he reached for the communicator on the table. "This is Admiral Kong Do-yan. Authorization code Prometheus 7. Begin activation of all Phase 3 assets. I repeat, all Phase 3 assets." "This is not a drill." Taiyu stared at him. "Sir, the Council hasn't voted yet." "President Cho hasn't authorized, the President will authorize it," Do-yan said. "Because she knows what I know. What every human knows in their bones. We did not survive ice ages, plagues, wars, and our own stupidity just to be told we cannot reach for the stars. They want to cage us, Taiwu. They want to put us back in the box and close the lid. And if we fight, we have 40 warships. They have 12,000. Oh, Doyen smiled. It was not a kind smile. They think we have 40 warships. They think they know what we can do. They are wrong. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, massive doors that had not opened in 50 years began to move. Snow and ice cracked and fell away as ancient mechanisms came to life. From the darkness below, lights began to glow. Red first, then blue, then white. Engines that had been sleeping for decades roared back to awareness in orbit around Mars. Asteroids that had been quiet for years suddenly changed course. Their surfaces cracked open, revealing metal underneath. Not asteroids at all. Ships. Hidden ships. Dozens of them. On the dark side of the moon, in a crater that no telescope had ever examined closely, another fleet waited. These ships were different. Sleeker. Faster. Built with technology that the galaxy had never seen. Because humanity had never shared it, Admiral Dojon received confirmation after confirmation. 200 ships. 200 warships that the Galactic Union did not know existed. 200 reasons why Earth would not go quietly into exile. President Chominji called an emergency session of the United Earth Council. The debate lasted 6 hours. Some argued for acceptance. The galaxy was too big, too powerful. Fighting would mean death for billions. But others remembered history. They remembered every time humanity had been told it could not survive, could not win, could not overcome. And they remembered that humans had proven the doubters wrong every single time. The vote was close. 7-5 in favor of war. President Cho stood before the cameras that would broadcast her message across the galaxy. She was 53 years old, a former combat medic who had held dying soldiers in her arms. She knew the cost of war better than anyone. But she also knew the cost of surrender. To the Galactic Union, she began, her voice steady and clear. You have voted to exile humanity. You have decided that we do not belong among the stars. We reject your verdict. We reject your authority. We did not crawl from the mud, survive ice ages, plagues, and our own darkest impulses, just to be told where we belong. From this moment, a state of war exists between Earth and any who would enforce this exile. The stars were never yours to give or take away, and we are coming to prove it. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, species that had celebrated humanity's exile fell silent. They had expected protests. They had expected pleas. They had not expected war. Admiral Doyon stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. Around him, 200 ships powered up their engines. Engines that could cross 400 light years in seconds. Weapons that could crack planets. All ships, Doyon said into the fleet-wide channel. Engage quantum drives. Target Orvex Prime. Let's go introduce ourselves properly. The fleet vanished from soul space, and the galaxy would never be the same. The sensors on Orvex Prime detected nothing. One moment, the space above the planet was empty. The next moment, 200 human warships hung in perfect formation, like wolves surrounding a wounded animal. They had crossed 400 light years in less than 5 seconds. No species in the galaxy could move that fast. No species in the galaxy even knew such speed was possible. High Chancellor Torvin was still in the Great Hall when the alarms began screaming. He rushed to the window and looked up at the sky. The human ships were visible even from the ground, dark shapes blocking out the stars. His 4 eyes went wide with a fear he had not felt in centuries. Impossible, he whispered. This is impossible. Admiral Kang Doyon stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the chaos unfold below. Communication channels were flooding with panicked transmissions from every species on the planet. Emergency services were activating. Military ships were scrambling to respond. But they were too slow. Far too slow. Captain Han Jian stood beside the Admiral. She was young for her rank, only 34, but she had earned her position through skill and courage. Her hands rested calmly on the control panel as she monitored the tactical display. 600 Union ships are converging on our position, she reported. Estimated arrival time, 4 hours. Bayon repeated. We could destroy every military installation on this planet and be gone in 1 hour. But we won't. Lieutenant Yoon Hajan looked up from his station. He was the youngest officer on the bridge, just 26 years old. This was his first real combat deployment. His hands were shaking slightly, but his voice was steady. "Sir, we're not attacking?" Doyan turned to face the young officer. "No, Lieutenant. We are not here to destroy. We are here to deliver a message. If we wanted to kill, we would have done it already. But killing is not the point. The point is showing them what we can do. Making them understand that they cannot stop us, cannot contain us, cannot control us." He opened a channel to the planet below. His voice echoed across every communication system on Orvex Prime, reaching every species, every individual. "This is Admiral Kong Dujan of the United Earth Fleet. You voted to cage us. You decided we did not deserve the stars. Look up. Look at your sky. We are here. We could burn your world to ash before your defenders arrive. But we will not. Because we are not monsters? We are not the villains you have convinced yourselves we are. We are just humans, and we will not be caged." He cut the transmission and turned back to his crew. "All ships, prepare for quantum jump. Next target, the Mulvari border stations." The fleet vanished again, leaving Orvex Prime untouched but terrified in the following days. Humanity demonstrated what it could do. The Mulvari Dominion, whose High Chancellor had pushed hardest for Earth's exile, found their border defenses systematically dismantled. Human ships would appear without warning, disable weapons and engines with surgical precision, and disappear before reinforcements could arrive. Fleetmaster Drovax of the Mulvari Navy was considered one of the best military commanders in the galaxy. He had won battles against pirates, rebels, and even the dreaded Void Swarm. He gathered 200 warships and set a trap for the human fleet near the Corrivan Nebula. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Human. Kinetic weapons fired projectiles at 90% of the speed of light. Mulvari shields, designed to stop energy weapons, shattered like glass against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. Human ships moved in patterns that Mulvari targeting systems could not predict, could not track, could not hit. When it was over, 178 Mulvari ships drifted dead in space. Not destroyed, disabled. Their crews were alive, their life support intact. But their weapons were slag, and their engines were scrap. Drovax stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by the bodies of his dreams of victory. A human shuttle approached, requesting permission to dock. He granted it. What else could he do? The human who stepped onto his bridge was not a soldier. She was Vice Admiral Song Yoonji, a small woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much death. Behind her came medics carrying supplies. "Your wounded need treatment," Yoonji said simply. "We have brought medical supplies and doctors. With your permission, we would like to help." Drovax stared at her. "You just destroyed my fleet." "We disabled your fleet. There is a difference. You are not our enemy, Fleet Master. You are simply on the wrong side of a decision made by politicians who have never seen combat. If it were up to soldiers like us, perhaps this war would never have started. Then why fight at all?" Yoonji's expression softened slightly. "Because sometimes the only way to be heard is to shout. Your leaders would not listen to words. Perhaps they will listen to actions. Perhaps they will understand that humanity does not want conquest. We want respect. We want freedom. We want the same right to exist that every other species claims." She turned to her medics. "Help their wounded. All of them. Leave nothing behind." News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Not just news of human victory, but news of human mercy. Species that had cheered for Earth's exile began to question. This was not how wars were supposed to be fought. Winners did not heal the wounded of their enemies. Conquerors did not leave survivors. A Corvani journalist named Neroth traveled to the front lines. She was young and curious, determined to understand these strange beings called humans. She interviewed Mulvari officers who had been captured and released. She spoke with merchants whose cargo had been seized, inspected, and returned undamaged. She recorded everything. They are not what we expected, one military captain told her. I was prepared to die. Instead, a human sergeant gave me water and asked about my family. He showed me pictures of his own children. He said he hoped the war would end soon so we could all go home. Neroth asked for the sergeant's name. Oh Kyung-ho, she was told, a human warrior who carried candy in his pockets because he had learned that Mulvari children loved sweet things. On Earth, President Cho Min-ji watched the war unfold with a mixture of pride and sorrow. Every victory came with costs, not in lives, not yet, but in resources, in energy. In the constant strain of fighting a galaxy that outnumbered them, 1,000 to 1, we cannot keep this up forever, General Lim Min-ho told her during a strategy meeting. Our ships are faster and stronger, but they are not infinite. Eventually, they will find a way to counter our technology. Eventually, numbers will matter. I know, Cho replied. This was never meant to be a war of conquest. It is a war of demonstration. We need to show them that the cost of caging us is higher than the cost of accepting us. And if they decide the cost is worth it, Cho looked at the map of the galaxy, at the thousands of stars that represented species who feared humanity. Then we will make them reconsider. Again and again, until they understand. Back on the Defiance, Lieutenant Yoon Hae-jin sat alone in the observation deck. Through the window, he could see the wreckage of another battle. Disabled ships tumbling slowly through space. Escape pods being collected by human rescue vessels. Captain Han Gin found him there. She sat beside him without speaking. I thought war would feel different, Hae-jin finally said. I thought I would feel like a hero, but I just feel tired and sad. Gian nodded slowly. That means you are still human. The day you stop feeling sad about war is the day you lose something important. We fight because we must. We show mercy because we choose to. That choice is what separates us from the monsters they think we are. Do you think we will win? Gian looked out at the stars. I think we will survive. And sometimes, survival is victory enough. A message arrived from Admiral Do-yoon. 12 species had made secret contact with Earth. They wanted to talk. The cracks in the Galactic Union had begun to show, and through those cracks, light was starting to shine. 6 months had passed since the war began. The galaxy had changed in ways no one expected. Human fleets controlled a corridor of space, stretching from Seoul to the edge of Milvari territory. Not through conquest, but through presence. Any Union fleet that entered human-controlled space was disabled and sent home. Any civilian ship was allowed to pass freely. The secret meetings happened on a small moon at the edge of known space. Minister Yu Naeong represented Earth. She was a quiet woman with sharp intelligence, chosen for this mission because she understood something that admirals and generals sometimes forgot. Wars were won with weapons, but peace was won with words. 12 species had sent representatives. 12 species who had watched humanity fight and wondered if perhaps they had been wrong. Among them was Delegate Syrinx of the Feline, a young female with bright orange fur and eyes that sparkled with curiosity. We did not vote for your exile, Syrinx told Naeong. My people remember when human soldiers died defending our world. We remember the kindness your species showed us, but we were not strong enough to stand against the majority. Naeong nodded. We do not blame you. We blame those who made the decision. Tell me, Delegate, why do you think the vote happened? Was humanity truly so frightening? Syrinx glanced at the other delegates. Some looked nervous. Speaking truth about the Galactic Union could be dangerous. But Syrinx was young and brave, and she was tired of being afraid. It was not about fear of what humanity is, she said. It was about fear of what humanity represents. For 100,000 years, the older species have controlled the galaxy. They decide who advances and who does not. They maintain balance by keeping everyone in their place. Humanity does not accept its place. You grow too fast, dream too big, reach too far. And worse, you inspire others to do the same. We inspire others. Yes, young species like mine watch humanity and wonder why we accept our limits. We wonder why we listen when the elders tell us to slow down, to wait, to be patient. Humanity shows us another way, a way of seizing our own destiny. The older species do not fear human weapons, Minister. They fear human ideas. The meeting lasted 3 days. Plans were made. Alliances were formed. Not military alliances, not yet, but something more important. Understanding, trust. The beginning of something new. Meanwhile, Admiral Doyon received troubling news. Dr. Beek Sunwoo had cracked the encryption on captured Milvari communications and discovered something that changed everything. The Elder Conclave. Sunwoo explained, his face pale on the video screen. They are real, Admiral. Not a myth, not a legend. 7 species that are older than any others. They have controlled the Galactic Union from the shadows since its founding. High Chancellor Torvin is nothing but their puppet. Tell me more. They have a weapon called the Silence Protocol. It can collapse a star, Admiral. Make it go supernova. They have used it before, at least 3 times that I can find evidence of. Species that threatened their control. Species that grew too powerful. They were erased. Their worlds destroyed. Their stars killed. The galaxy was told they died from natural disasters or internal wars, but it was the Conclave. Doyon felt cold spread through his chest, and now they are discussing using it on Sol, on our sun. They are debating whether to destroy Earth and every human everywhere. The Admiral sat in silence for a long moment. 200 ships. That was all humanity had. 200 ships against a weapon that could kill stars. How do you fight something like that? He called an emergency meeting of all commanding officers. The faces on the screens were tired but determined. Vice Admiral Song Yoonji, Captain Han Giln, General Im Min-ho on Earth, GA, Nirel Ru Taiwu at the Mars Defense Station, and many others. Men and women who had given everything to this war. We have learned the truth about our enemy, Doyon told them. The real enemy? Not the Milvari, not the Corvani, not any of the species we have fought. They are victims too, controlled by ancient powers they do not even know exist. The Elder Conclave has ruled this galaxy for longer than human civilization has existed, and they plan to destroy us the same way they have destroyed others. Then we attack them first, General Im Min-ho said. Find their hiding place and end them before they can act. It is not that simple. The Conclave is hidden somewhere in the void between galaxies. We do not know where. And even if we find them, attacking directly would require passing through their defenses. Defenses that could activate the Silence Protocol the moment they see us coming. Captain Han Giln spoke up. What about the other species? The ones who have been secretly supporting us? If they knew the truth about the Conclave, would they help? Perhaps. But the Conclave has spent 100,000 years building this system. They have spies everywhere. If we try to spread the truth quietly, they will find out. They will act before we are ready. Silence fell over the meeting. Then Vice Admiral Song Young-ji smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Then we do not spread the truth quietly, she said. We shout it from every corner of the galaxy. We hack their communication networks and broadcast everything. Every secret. Every crime. Every species they have murdered. We let the galaxy see its masters for what they truly are. That would cause chaos. Yes, beautiful, wonderful chaos. The kind of chaos that breaks old systems and builds new ones. The kind of chaos that gives ordinary people permission to stand up and say they will not accept tyranny anymore. Diane considered this. It was risky. So many things could go wrong. But what choice did they have? They could not fight a weapon that killed stars. They could not hide from enemies who knew where their sun was. The only path forward was through truth. General Im Min-ho Doyen said, Your team will prepare the broadcast. Include everything Dr. Beek has discovered. Names, dates, evidence. Make it impossible to deny, yes, Admiral. Vice Admiral Song, you will coordinate with our allies among the younger species. Warn them what is coming. Give them time to prepare for the reaction. Understood. And I will lead our fleet toward the Conclave's last known position. If they try to activate the Silence Protocol, We will make them choose between stopping us and protecting their secret. With luck, they cannot do both. The broadcast went out 3 days later. It appeared on every channel, every network, every system in the galaxy simultaneously. Dr. Beek's Sunwoo's calm voice explained what the Elder Conclave was. What they had done? The names of the species they had erased from existence. The stars they had murdered. The galaxy reacted with shock, then anger. On 100 worlds, citizens demanded answers from their leaders. On 100 more leaders who had known the truth and stayed silent were dragged from their offices by furious crowds. The Mulvari High Command arrested High Chancellor Torvin when evidence showed he had known about the Conclave for decades. Revolution spread like wildfire. Young species stood up and declared they would no longer accept rule by ancient tyrants. Old species tore themselves apart as citizens discovered how badly they had been deceived, and in the chaos, something beautiful happened. Ships from dozens of species began appearing at human-controlled space, not to attack. To join, Delegate Sarix brought 50 Fellini warships. "We stand with humanity," she announced. "We stand for truth." Former Fleetmaster Drovax arrived with what remained of his defeated fleet, now repaired and repurposed. "You showed mercy when you could have shown cruelty," he told Admiral Doyun. "Today, I return that mercy." The journalist Nareth broadcast everything, documenting the moment when the galaxy began to change. Her words reached billions. "Today is the day the old lies died. Today's the day we choose a different future." Admiral Kong Doyen looked at the fleet gathering around the Defiance. Human ships? Yes. But also Fellini, Mulvari, Corvani, and a dozen other species. Not an army of conquest. An army of liberation. God. "The Conclave will see this coming," Captain Han Gian warned. "Let them see," Doyen replied. "Let them understand that they do not face humanity alone anymore. They face everyone they have wronged, everyone they have lied to, everyone who has finally decided to fight back." The combined fleet set course for the void between galaxies. Somewhere out there, the Elder Conclave waited. And for the first time in 100,000 years, they had reason to be afraid. The void between galaxies was empty in a way that no human had ever experienced. No stars, no planets, no light except the distant glow of the Milky. Way behind them, and the faint smudge of other galaxies, millions of light years away. It was a place of absolute darkness and absolute silence. A perfect hiding place for those who wished to rule without. Being seen, the combined fleet moved carefully through this emptiness. Admiral Kong Doyan stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the sensors for any sign of their target. Around him, officers from 5 different species worked side by side. Humans, Fellini, Mulvari, Corvani, and Threll. Former enemies now united against a common threat. "I am detecting something," reported a Fellini sensor operator. Her name was Kira, and she had volunteered for this mission because she believed in what they were doing. A structure, massive, bigger than any station I have ever seen. The image appeared on the main screen. The Conclave station hung in the void like a mechanical spider, all angles and sharp edges. It was ancient, built long before any current species had achieved spaceflight, and it was heavily armed. "They know we are coming," said Fleetmaster Drovax, who had taken position beside Doyan. "Look at those weapon platforms. They are already powered up. We expected that." Doyan turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel? All frequencies." The channel crackled to life. "This is Admiral Kong Doyan of the Allied Fleet. We are here for the Elder Conclave. You have committed crimes against countless species. You have murdered billions. You have hidden in the darkness and controlled the galaxy through fear and lies. That ends today. Surrender now, and you will face justice. Resist, and we will take you by force." Silence for a long moment. Then a voice replied. It was old, so old that it sounded like dust and death-given sound. "Little creatures, you do not understand what you challenge. We were ancient when your ancestors crawled from the ocean. We have guided the galaxy for longer than your species has existed. Everything you have, Everything you are exists because we allowed it, and now you dare to threaten us. We dare, Doyen replied simply, because you taught us something valuable. You taught us that those who hide in darkness are afraid of light. You taught us that those who rule through fear have forgotten how to rule through respect. And you taught us that ancient does not mean eternal. Everything ends. Today, your rule ends. The Conclave's response was not words, but weapons. Energy beams lanced out from the station, striking at the Allied fleet. Ships scattered, returning fire. The battle for the galaxy's future had begun. On Earth, President Cho Min-gi monitored the battle from the command center. Beside her, Dr. Beek Sunwoo worked frantically at his console. They're activating the silence protocol, Sunwoo reported, his voice tight with fear. Our son. They are targeting Seoul. How long? The process takes approximately 4 hours once initiated. The star becomes unstable, then collapses, then explodes. Everything within the system will be destroyed. For hours. For hours to stop an ancient weapon designed to murder stars. Cho closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with renewed determination. Dr. Beek, can you stop it? I do not know. I have been studying their systems since we captured the first Milvari communications. I understand the basics. But this weapon was built before humanity existed. Its technology is beyond anything we have developed. Try anyway. You are our best hope. Back at the Conclave station, the battle raged. Human ships used their superior speed to avoid enemy fire while punching through shields with kinetic weapons. Fellini fighters swarmed the weapon platforms, sacrificing themselves to protect the larger vessels. Milvari battleships absorbed damage that would have destroyed human ships, their heavier armor finally serving a purpose against weapons they could not outrun. Captain Han Jion commanded the assault on the station itself. All boarding teams prepare for deployment. We need to reach the central chamber and disable the silence protocol manually. Dr. Beek says the controls are there. Sergeant Major Oh Kyung-ho led the first team. His Reapers were the best soldiers humanity had ever produced. Behind him came warriors from every allied species. Fellini commandos with their incredible agility. Milvari shock troops with their forearms and natural armor. Corvani infiltrators who could slip through spaces no other species could reach. Remember Kunho told them before they launched? We are not here for revenge. We are here to save 8 billion people. Focus on the mission. Save your anger for when this is over. The shuttle punched through the station's defenses and crashed into a dew. Sakang Bay. Enemy soldiers were waiting. Not members of the elder species, but machines. Ancient robots that had served the Conclave for millennia. They fought without fear, without hesitation, without mercy. The boarding team fought back. Bullets and energy weapons filled the air. Kyung-ho saw a young Fellini soldier go down and dragged her to cover. A Milvari warrior named Thomases took a position beside him. Forearms each carrying a different weapon. Humans are crazy, Thomases said, as he fired continuously at the advancing robots. We prefer to call it determined, Kyung-ho replied. He pulled the injured Fellini over his shoulder and kept moving. Push forward. We have to reach the central chamber. On the Defiance, Admiral Do Yen coordinated the battle. They were losing ships. Too many ships. The Conclave's weapons were ancient, but ancient did not mean weak. Each shot that connected destroyed vessels that had taken years to build. Admiral, said Delegate Serix, who had insisted on being on the bridge during the battle. My people's ships are badly damaged. We cannot take much more. Hold position. We need to give the boarding teams time. How much time? Doyan looked at the tactical display. Kung-ho's team was making progress, but slowly, too slowly. The countdown to Seoul's destruction showed 3 hours and 12 minutes remaining. As much as it takes, he said quietly. Lieutenant Yoon Haejin piloted a fighter. In the screen protecting the boarding shuttles, he had never experienced combat this intense. Ships exploded around him. Voices screamed on the radio as crews died. He kept flying, kept shooting, kept fighting. A conclave fighter got behind him. He could not shake it. Weapons locked. He was going to die. Then a Mulvari ship swooped in and destroyed the enemy fighter. The pilot's voice came over the radio. Debt repaid. Human. You saved my captain at Corrivan. Today, I save you. Hagen did not know who the pilot was. He had not known anyone was keeping track. But somehow, the mercy shown months ago had come back when he needed it most. Inside the station, Kyung-ho's team finally reached the central chamber. It was enormous, filled with machines that hummed with power, and in the center stood the Elder Conclave themselves. 7 beings of 7 different species, all impossibly ancient. All watching the intruders with eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. You cannot stop the silence protocol, one of them said. It has already begun. Your son is dying. By the time this day ends, humanity will be nothing but ash and memory. Kyung-ho raised his weapon. Then we will die knowing we tried, that we did not surrender, that we fought until the very end. But you will not live to see our death. I promise you that. You think killing us changes anything? Others will take our place. The galaxy will remember the chaos you have caused and longed for order again. In 1,000 years, new conclaves will rise, and humanity will be forgotten. Maybe, maybe not. But that is a problem for the future. Right now, my problem is you. Dr. Beak, Sunwoo's voice came through the communicator. Sergeant Major, I need someone at the central console. I think I can stop the weapon, but I need direct access to the control systems. Kyung-ho looked at the console. It was guarded by a wall of robots. Between him and salvation stood an army of machines, he said, reloading his weapon. I always wanted to do something heroic, he charged. His team charged with him. Humans, Fellini, Milvari, Corvani, Threll. Former enemies fighting side by side against ancient evil. Soldiers fell, but others took their place. Step by step, they pushed forward. Kyung-ho reached the console with 7 bullets left and blood running from a dozen wounds. He slammed his hand on the interface. Dr. Beak, it is yours. Do what you need to do. On Earth, Sunwa's fingers flew across his keyboard. Code streamed across his screen. He was fighting a battle just as intense as the one happening in the void. A battle of mathematics and logic against technology older than human history. The countdown showed 37 minutes. Then 30. Then 20. I have it, Sunwoo whispered. I have the sequence. Transmitting now. On the conclave station, the machines suddenly stopped. The weapon systems went dark. The countdown froze at 17 minutes and stopped. Sergeant Major Oh Kyung-ho slumped against the console. Exhausted and bleeding, but alive. Around him, the survivors of his team cheered. The conclave members stood in shock, unable to believe that their perfect control had been broken by creatures. They considered insects. Admiral Doyen's voice came over every channel. All forces, the silence protocol has been disabled. I repeat, Seoul is safe. Now, let us finish this. The battle ended not with a bang, but with surrender. The Elder Conclave, for the first time in their impossibly long lives, faced consequences for their actions. They were taken into custody, to be tried by a court of every species they had wronged. As the sun rose over Earth the next morning, 8 billion people woke up not knowing how close they had come to death, not knowing that soldiers from a dozen species had died to save them, not knowing that a quiet scientist in a bunker had fought a battle against ancient technology and won. But they would learn. In time, they would all learn, and they would remember. 1 year had passed since the Battle of the Conclave Station. The galaxy was still healing from the revelations and the war that followed, but it was healing. Old wounds were closing. New connections were forming. And for the first time in 100,000 years, the future was not decided by ancient powers hiding in the darkness. The Galactic Assembly reconvened on Orvex Prime. The Great Hall was the same, but everything else had changed. There was no elevated platform for elder species anymore. No hierarchy based on how long a civilization had existed. Every representative sat at the same level. equal in voice and vote. Ambassador Park Yuna stood where she had stood 1 year ago, when the original Exile verdict was announced. But today was different. Today, she was not defending humanity. Today, she was celebrating a new beginning. Representatives of the reformed Galactic Union, she began. Her voice was calm and clear, carrying across the vast hall. 1 year ago, this assembly voted to exile Earth. You decided that humanity was too dangerous, too unpredictable, too unwilling to accept its place. You were right about one thing. We were never willing to accept our place, because we do not believe anyone has the right to decide our place for us. She paused, looking around at the faces watching her. Milvari and Fellini, Corvani and Threll, and so many others. Species that had fought against humanity and species that had fought beside them. We could have used our victory to seek revenge. We could have demanded payment for the wrong done to us. We could have become the very tyrants we fought against. But that was never what we wanted. We wanted only what every species wants: the freedom to exist, the freedom to grow, the freedom to reach for the stars without someone else deciding how far we are allowed to go. In the audience, Delegate Serix wiped tears from her orange fur. Beside her, Fleet Master Drovak sat in full military uniform, wearing medals from both sides of the war. They had been enemies once. Now they were something like friends. The Elder Conclave ruled through fear and secrets, Yuna continued. They kept us divided, so we could not unite against them. They kept us ignorant, so we could not see their crimes. They told us that this was the only way, that the galaxy could not survive without their guidance. They were wrong. The galaxy survived because ordinary beings chose to stand up for what was right. Humans and Feline, Milvari and Corvani. Species that had never worked together before found common cause. That is the galaxy's true strength. Not ancient powers hiding in the void. You. All of you.
All of you.
She smiled, and it was a smile of genuine warmth and hope. Today begins a new chapter. The reformed Galactic Union will be built on different principles. Every species has a voice. Every voice matters equally. Decisions will be made together, not imposed from above. There will be disagreements. There will be conflicts. But they will be resolved through discussion and compromise, not through fear and lies. The applause that followed was thunderous. Representatives from hundreds of species rose to their feet, clapping and cheering. For the first time in memory, the great hall of Orvex Prime was filled with hope instead of politics. Outside the assembly hall, Captain Yoon Haejin walked through the gardens. He was 32 years old now, promoted 3 times during the war for actions that he still did not fully understand. He had killed. He had saved lives. He had done things that would live in his dreams forever. A Mulvari veteran approached him. Haejin recognized him immediately. The same pilot who had saved his life during the battle at the Conclave Station. I never learned your name, Haejin said. Vorn, my name is Vorn. The Milvari extended one of his 4 hands. I wanted to thank you. My captain told me what happened at Korriban, how your squad could have killed our wounded but instead gave us medical supplies. I was one of those wounded. You saved my life long before I saved yours. I was just following orders. Admiral Kang told us to show mercy. But you could have chosen not to. Many soldiers would have chosen not to. You did not. That matters. They stood together for a while, watching ships from dozens of species passing overhead. A year ago, they would have been shooting at each other. Now, they shared drinks and stories. The universe was strange sometimes. On Earth, President Cho Min-ji gave her final address before leaving office. She had served longer than any peacetime president, guiding humanity through its greatest crisis. Now it was time for others to lead. We have won a war, she told the billions watching. But winning a war is easier than winning a peace. The galaxy is watching us. They are waiting to see if humanity will live up to the principles it fought for. Freedom, justice, mercy. These are not just words. They are choices we make every day. I have faith that we will make the right choices. I have faith in humanity. I always have. Admiral Kung Doyan retired from active service. He had never wanted to be a hero. He had only wanted to protect his people. Now his people were safe, and he could finally rest. He spent his days in a small house by the ocean, watching waves and remembering friends who had not lived to see peace. Sometimes Captain Han Gion would visit. She was Admiral Han Gion now, commanding the First Fleet. They would sit on his porch and talk about nothing important. Old soldiers sharing the silence that comes after thunder. Dr. Beak. Sun Wu received the highest civilian honors from every species. In the Reformed Union, he had saved Earth. He had saved billions of lives with nothing but his mind and his determination. But he did not care about honors. He cared about the work. There was still so much to learn about the Conclave's technology, so many secrets left to uncover. He returned to his laboratory and kept working. Sergeant Major Oh Kyun-ho received a medical discharge due to his injuries from the final battle. He had lost an arm and most of his hearing on the right side. The Union offered him cybernetic replacements, technology far beyond what humanity had developed. He accepted. Not for himself, but because he wanted to keep teaching young soldiers how to fight and when not to fight. How to be warriors and still remain human. The journalist. Nerith published her chronicle, When Thunder Came, A History of the Human War. It became the most widely read document in galactic history. Billions of beings learned about humanity through her words. Not the fear and suspicion that the old regime had taught, but the truth. The humans were strange and stubborn and sometimes foolish, that they laughed and cried and loved and feared, that they were different from other species in many ways, but the same in all the ways that truly mattered. Her final chapter described a simple moment. A human soldier giving candy to Mulvari children during the occupation of a border station. The children had been terrified at first, taught that humans were monsters. But the soldier had sat down with them, showed them pictures of his own children, and shared sweets he had brought from Earth. This is humanity, Neroth wrote, not their ships, or their weapons, or their impossible technology. Their capacity for kindness in the midst of war, their refusal to become the monsters others expected them to be. They fought a galaxy and won. But their greatest victory was not on any battlefield. Their greatest victory was proving that strength and compassion can exist together. That you do not have to choose between being powerful and being good. 10 years after the war, a new species made first contact. They were called the Velrani, and they had just achieved faster-than-light travel for the first time. Their first ship emerged from hyperspace near a Union patrol station. Terrified and uncertain what they would find, the ship that greeted them bore the flag of the Reformed Galactic Union. Its captain was Human Captain. Yoon Haejin was 40 years old now, with gray in his hair and peace in his heart. He had seen the worst the galaxy could offer. Now, he wanted to be part of something better. Welcome to the stars, he told the Velrani captain. You will find them bigger than you imagined, more dangerous than you expected, but also more wonderful than you ever dreamed. The Velrani captain asked the question that every young species asked. What should we fear? Haejin thought about the question. He thought about the Elder Conclave, dust now, about the wars and the battles and the friends he had lost, about the darkness he had seen and the light that had followed. Nothing, he finally said. Not anymore. The ones who made the stars dangerous are gone. What remains is opportunity, challenge, wonder. You will make mistakes. You will face hardship, but you will also find allies you never expected. Friends among species you never knew existed. The galaxy is not what it was. It is better now, and you are welcome in it. The Velrani ship docked with the Union station. The captain stepped aboard and was greeted not just by humans, but by Mulvari and Fellini and Corvani and dozens of other species, all of them remembering what it felt like to be new. All of them determined to make this first contact better than their own had been. Somewhere in the void, in the wreckage of the Conclave station that had been left as a memorial, the ghosts of ancient tyrants watched and despaired. Their perfect order was gone. Their control was broken. The chaos they had always feared was spreading across the galaxy, but it was not the chaos of destruction. It was the chaos of creation, of species learning to work together without being forced, of problems being solved through cooperation instead of control, of a galaxy finally allowed to grow in whatever direction it chose. The thunder had come and passed. What remained was a new dawn in humanity. The species that had refused to be caged watched that dawn with pride. They had not conquered the galaxy. They had freed it. And in doing so, they had proven what they had always believed, that the stars belonged to everyone willing to reach for them.